Teeth are one of the most extraordinary structures in the human body, and also one of the most overlooked. We don't think about them until they start to hurt, yet they carry more information about us than we could ever imagine. In their enamel is written the story of what we ate, where we lived, what illnesses we endured, even how much stress we experienced as children. They are the biological flash drives of our lives. Our first baby teeth emerge as we're just learning to speak and bite into the world. Then come the permanent ones, meant to last a lifetime. Hard, gleaming, seemingly indestructible, and yet vulnerable to microorganisms smaller than dust. Teeth are proof that in nature, even the hardest things can be fragile. They are both weapon and tool, but also a delicate system whose balance depends on bacteria, chemistry, and our daily habits. And every tooth, if you look closely, is like a fossilized piece of evolution. It carries millions of years of history. Even before we are born, the blueprint of our future smile is hidden in our gums. Tooth buds appear as early as the 6th week of fetal life. Tiny clusters of cells that begin to specialize in producing the hardest substance in the human body. While our heart is still learning to beat and our eyes have never seen light, the enamel of our future teeth is already forming in complete silence, a microscopic work of art. Every tooth is built from 3 layers. At its core lies the pulp, living tissue filled with blood vessels and nerves, surrounded by dentine, a resilient yet hard material, and finally covered by enamel, a mineral shield made almost entirely of hydroxyapatite crystals. It's the enamel that allows a tooth to survive for centuries after death, long after every other tissue has decayed. The first teeth, the baby ones, start breaking through the gums around 6 months of age. They aren't weaker than permanent teeth, only smaller and softer, perfectly adapted to an infant's world. They teach the jaw muscles how to work, preparing the ground for the next generation. When the time for change comes, the body quietly activates a built-in program. The roots of baby teeth dissolve, and from deep within the bone, the permanent ones rise to take their place, meant to stay with us for life. Why only 2 sets? Evolution doesn't waste. If we replace teeth endlessly like sharks, our skulls would need to be larger, our nervous systems more complex. Humans are mammals, and mammals, unlike fish or reptiles, chose quality over quantity. Permanent teeth are anchored firmly in the jawbone, stable and precisely shaped for our way of eating and speaking. We don't need more, as long as we care for the ones we have. Teeth are also a testament to nature's precision in design. The incisors in the front, sharp and thin, perfect for cutting. The canines, pointed, once used for tearing meat, now mostly for shaping our smile. And the molars, the mills of the mouth, grinding and crushing with their intricate surfaces. Every shape has a purpose, and together they form a perfectly calibrated machine. That's why losing even one tooth disrupts more than you'd expect. A single gap can shift the alignment of others, change how we chew, even alter the shape of the face. Teeth are not just tools. They're part of a complex system that affects the entire body. And while we take them for granted, in the animal kingdom, teeth come in astonishing forms. Rodents' teeth grow continuously throughout their lives, worn down by constant gnawing. In elephants, they've evolved into tusks, elongated masterpieces of pure dentin. Sharks replace their teeth endlessly, growing tens of thousands over a lifetime. Humans, however, kept theirs as instruments of precision, rather than brute force. A tooth is a small miracle of engineering. Crystal and nerve in one, proof that nature can merge the hardness of stone with the sensitivity of life, the most dangerous. Enemy of teeth doesn't have fangs or claws. It's 1,000th of a millimeter in size and lives right beside us, on our own teeth. From the very first day of life, bacteria begin building their microscopic world on the enamel's surface. To them, the mouth is a warm, humid paradise full of food. To us, it's a battlefield where the fight for enamel survival never ends. It all begins with dental plaque, a thin, sticky layer of biofilm that forms just minutes after brushing. It's an organized society of bacteria that communicate chemically, build protective structures, and divide labor like a microscopic colony. Some of these bacteria are harmless, even helpful. But in the presence of sugar, they turn into invaders. Sugar is their fuel, and our biggest problem. When we eat something sweet, bacteria feed on simple sugars and, through fermentation, produce organic acids, mainly lactic acid. These acids dissolve minerals in the enamel, leaching out calcium and phosphorus. The enamel loses its hardness, becomes porous, and that's the beginning of tooth decay. At first, a tooth doesn't hurt. Enamel is dead, without nerves. But as the process reaches the dentin, sensitivity appears to cold, heat, or sour foods. That's the first warning sign. Over time, bacteria invade the pulp, rich in nerves and blood vessels, and the pain becomes sharp, pulsating, nearly unbearable. It's not the tooth itself that hurts. It's the living tissue inside, fighting for survival. Lack of oral hygiene accelerates this process dramatically. Just a few days without brushing is enough for dental plaque to begin hardening, turning into tartar, a mineral crust that no toothbrush can remove. Beneath that crust, bacteria find perfect living conditions. No oxygen, plenty of warmth, and moisture. They begin to infect the gums, and from there, it's just one step away from periodontitis. The periodontium is the system that anchors teeth in the jawbone. Once it's destroyed, even a perfectly healthy tooth can loosen and fall out. In this way, something as seemingly harmless as skipping brushing can set off a biological cascade that ends with the loss of an entire set of teeth. Modern diets only add fuel to the fire. Simple sugars, carbonated drinks, acidic juices, alcohol, all these acidify the environment inside the mouth. Even fruits that appear healthy, like pineapple or citrus, are highly acidic and, in excess, can weaken enamel. Add to that a lack of saliva, caused by dehydration, stress, or certain medications, and the mouth loses its natural protective shield. Saliva isn't just water. It's a complex fluid full of enzymes that neutralize acids and supply minerals to rebuild enamel. Paradoxically, teeth aren't destroyed only by what we eat, but also by our habits. Brushing too hard wears down enamel mechanically. Whitening toothpastes, when overused, can act like sandpaper. Grinding your teeth under stress, bruxism, causes microcracks that allow bacteria to penetrate deeper. And smoking, along with too much coffee or tea, not only stains the teeth but also dries out the mucosa, reducing the tissue's ability to regenerate. What's most fascinating, however, is that bacteria act in a coordinated, almost intelligent way, like microscopic swarms. They produce chemical signals that let them communicate, assessing when it's time to attack. This phenomenon is called quorum sensing, a kind of bacterial voting system. When the colony decides there are enough of them, they activate collective mechanisms of destruction. That's the moment when decay accelerates. And under a microscope, our enamel literally melts under an acid siege. Toothache, then, isn't a punishment. It's a message from the body. The limit has been crossed. And although modern dentistry can now repair almost any cavity, no technology can truly match nature. Enamel doesn't regenerate. It's the only tissue in the human body that, once damaged, never grows back. When it cracks, it leaves a scar that can be filled, but never truly healed. That's why daily brushing, flossing, and rinsing aren't just routines. They're acts of defense in a quiet, ongoing war against one of Earth's most cunning biological enemies. The bacteria in our mouths never sleep. They're only waiting for the moment we forget about them. Tooth pain is one of the most distinctive and primal forms of suffering known to humans. There's nothing superficial about it. It's a deeply biological signal that triggers the brain's highest alarm priority. Because when a tooth hurts, it's not just enamel or gum. It's the agony of tissues that are normally hidden, silent, and exquisitely sensitive. At the heart of every tooth lies the pulp, living tissue filled with blood vessels and nerves that enter through a microscopic opening at the root. This is where nerve cells capable of transmitting pain signals with incredible intensity reside. When decay or injury breaches the protective barrier of enamel and dentin, bacteria invade the tooth's interior and cause pulpitis, inflammation that, to the body, feels like a blaring siren. Inflammation means swelling, but inside a tooth, There's no room for tissue to expand. It's trapped within a hard shell. The nerves become compressed, and pressure builds inside. That's why toothache often feels pulsing and rhythmic. We can literally sense our heartbeat inside the root canal. The body tries to fight back, sending immune cells into the confined space, but the pressure keeps rising until it crushes the nerve itself. At that point, the pain stops being a signal. It becomes torture. A tooth can, in a sense, die. When blood flow is cut off, the pulp necroses, and the nerves stop working. It might seem like relief, but it's only the beginning. Dead tissue becomes a perfect breeding ground for anaerobic bacteria. They start decomposing the pulp, producing toxins that seep beyond the tooth root into the jawbone and bloodstream. The infection is no longer local. It becomes systemic. In the past, many people died from a simple toothache. That's not an exaggeration. An untreated abscess can turn into sepsis, a life-threatening systemic infection. Oral bacteria can enter the bloodstream and travel to the brain, heart, or lungs. Meningitis, endocarditis, even brain abscesses. All are possible outcomes of neglected tooth decay that once seemed like a minor inconvenience. Moreover, research has shown strong links between oral disease and cardiovascular illness. Bacteria from gum pockets can infiltrate the blood and settle on arterial walls, triggering inflammation that leads to atherosclerosis. In this way, a dental infection can literally hasten a heart attack. Some forms of tooth pain are deceptive. Sometimes the pain radiates. The patient feels it in the ear, temple, or eye, while the real problem lies in a single molar root. That's because the facial nerves form a complex network, and the brain often interprets signals from them collectively. A tooth can, in this sense, pretend to be something else. And the brain can't always tell where the real source lies. From a biological perspective, tooth pain is a remarkably efficient defense mechanism. It warns us long before irreversible damage occurs. Yet modern humans often ignore that signal, numbing it with painkillers, waiting for it to pass. The problem is that with teeth, nothing ever just goes away. When the pain stops without treatment, it's rarely because the body has healed. It's because the pulp has died. The silence that follows is the silence of death. A dead tooth doesn't hurt, but it can still be a ticking time bomb. Bacteria can continue multiplying inside, and toxins can still leak into the surrounding tissues. That's why root canal therapy, though dreaded, is often the only way to truly save a tooth, to clean, disinfect, and seal it from within before the infection spreads further. Humans can endure tooth pain, but the body pays a steep price for it. Every untreated infection is an open door for bacteria, and the mouth is one of the richest biological ecosystems on Earth. Nearly 700 species of microorganisms live on our gums, tongue, and teeth. Most are neutral or beneficial, but when the balance tips, they can transform into a destructive army almost overnight. That's why tooth pain isn't just a local problem. It's an echo of a larger warning resonating through the entire body. It's no coincidence that medicine calls the mouth the mirror of human health, because a tooth that hurts rarely lies. It simply tells the truth, one we've ignored for too long. Before dental clinics, sterile scents, and delicate stainless steel tools, there was only pain, the kind that drove people mad, the kind that throbbed day and night, echoing through the skull like war drums. For people of ancient times, toothache was a sentence, not a diagnosis. In ancient Egypt, people believed that tooth pain was caused by evil spirits that bit from within. Priests chanted incantations, amulets were placed on the body, and pastes made of honey, salt, and myrrh were rubbed into the gums. When that failed, they turned to iron. Tooth extraction was a ritual of screams, sweat, and tears. There was no anesthesia. The tooth was grasped with a metal clamp, levered and pulled out, often along with a piece of bone. In the Middle Ages, toothache was seen as punishment for sin. The cure? Sometimes prayer, sometimes a red-hot nail used to burn a hole in the tooth to let the evil spirit out. Folk remedies were equally strange, placing a slice of cheese in the mouth to draw out the worm, because people believed a worm was eating the tooth from inside, or pressing a frog to the cheek so the pain would transfer to the animal. Eventually came the barbers, itinerant craftsmen who shaved beards, set broken bones, and pulled teeth. They worked in marketplaces and taverns. Anesthesia came in the form of wine, spirits, or a stick to bite down on. Often the wrong tooth was extracted. Diagnostic tools didn't exist. Death from infection was common. An abscess or gangrene in the mouth could lead to sepsis or blood poisoning, and often it truly ended in death. The discovery of ether and nitrous oxide brought relief. For the first time, humans could treat their teeth without suffering. Soon after came the first fillings, made of silver, gold, and zinc. They were toxic and short-lived, but they gave the illusion of repair. In the 20th century, dentistry became a true science. Precision instruments, mirrors, electric drills, and sterilization transformed the field. The tooth stopped being a death sentence. It became a structure that could be saved. Humanity began to understand that tooth decay was a bacterial disease, not divine punishment, that it could be stopped with a toothbrush, not endured through pain. Today, the modern dentist works almost like a brain surgeon, under microscopic magnification, using lasers, digital scanners, and biocompatible materials. Yet behind every flawless procedure lies the same ancient story, thousands of years of pain, suffering, and survival. Because for most of human history, a tooth was like a ticking clock. The more it hurt, the closer came death. Once, before we understood bacteria or invented antibiotics, even a simple wisdom tooth could take a person's life. Today it takes 10 minutes in a dental chair. But that moment without pain, that's a privilege our ancestors paid for with millennia of agony. A silent war is being waged inside the mouth, one most of us never think about. Every human being carries colonies of bacteria there, some allies, some potential saboteurs. When the balance tips, these microscopic inhabitants can turn into killers. And it's no longer about pain or appearance, it's about survival. A tooth that hurts isn't just a local problem. Its inner core, the pulp, is a dense network of nerves and blood vessels. Once bacteria break through the enamel, the infection doesn't stop there. The bloodstream becomes a highway, and bacteria, stowaways without tickets. They travel wherever they please, most often to the heart. And that's where the true tragedy begins. Endocarditis, an infection of the heart's inner lining, can develop from an ordinary neglected cavity. All it takes is a tiny gum injury, even from brushing or chewing hard food, for microorganisms to slip into the blood. Doctors warn that oral bacteria can also settle in blood vessels, triggering inflammation that leads to atherosclerosis. An abscessed tooth isn't just a painful nuisance. It's a source of chronic infection that increases the risk of stroke, heart attack, and even neurodegenerative disease. What begins in the mouth often ends far away. Patients with untreated dental infections have been diagnosed with joint inflammation, kidney and lung infections, and even sepsis. Bacteria know no borders. Once they enter the bloodstream, they can colonize any weakened organ. For modern medicine, this is one of the greatest paradoxes. A disease that starts in a single tooth can kill an entire human being. In Japan, studies have shown that people with advanced periodontal disease have twice the risk of dying from cardiovascular illness, not because they ate poorly, but because their mouths were chronic sources of inflammation. And that's not all. Microbiologists have discovered that oral bacteria can penetrate the brain. In tissue samples from Alzheimer's patients, scientists found DNA from Porphyromonas gingivalis, the same bacterium that causes gum disease. Researchers now suspect that chronic oral inflammation may be a silent trigger of neurodegenerative processes. It's also worth knowing that a dead tooth, one whose pulp has already died, is not neutral. It's a biological time bomb. Inside its sealed canals, bacteria can still live, cut off from the immune system. They slowly poison the body with toxins that, over time, can lead to chronic fatigue, weakened immunity, and heart or liver problems. In a world where we can replace a heart, implant artificial lungs, and even repair genes, it's the teeth that still remain one of the most common causes of serious systemic infections. Unlike the rest of the body, the mouth is an open system. Every day it welcomes billions of bacteria from food, air, and touch. Today, most of us think about teeth in terms of aesthetics. White, straight, even. But the true secret of their meaning lies elsewhere. It takes just one neglected root for a silent, painless process to begin. One that can destroy the health of the entire organism. A tooth that has died can kill the body that's still alive. Every tooth is a small vault, storing the story of our lives. Though it seems simple, white, hard, unmoving, it's like a geological layer of the body's history. Within it lie traces of what we've eaten, how we've lived, what we've fought against, and which diseases we've survived. With the right technology, a tooth can tell the story of an entire person. Teeth don't grow throughout life, so each layer forms at a specific moment, like the annual rings of a tree. When scientists slice a tooth under a microscope, they see characteristic lines, a record of childhood, stress, diet, and even moments when the body fell ill. Just a brief disturbance of metabolism, a fever, an infection, or a vitamin deficiency is enough for enamel to pause its formation, leaving behind a microscopic scar. That trace remains forever. In archaeology, teeth are like the black boxes of human evolution. They've survived millions of years, long after bones have turned to dust. In the enamel of ancient people, scientists find chemical elements that reveal what they ate, what environment they lived in, and even whether they were breastfed. Isotopic analysis can show how much fluoride, strontium, or lead accumulated in their bodies. In other words, whether they drank clean or contaminated water. But a tooth is not just a witness of the past. It's a living record of oxidative stress, that invisible pressure the modern world exerts on us. When the body lives under tension, lacks sleep, balance, and rest, inflammation begins to build up in the tissues. Enamel becomes more brittle, dentin thinner, and microscopic traces of stress appear in the form of tiny defects which, though invisible to the naked eye, testify that the body pays a price for emotions. The tooth does not forget. Modern forensic laboratories treat teeth as biological fingerprints. The arrangement of grooves, micro cracks, and enamel patterns is unique to every person. There are no two identical teeth, just as there are no two identical fingerprints. Thanks to this, victims of disasters or people missing for decades can be identified. Even when everything else has perished, the tooth endures. In some cases, even DNA can be extracted from a tooth, perfectly preserved within its mineralized tissue. It was from Neanderthal teeth that scientists reconstructed their genome, discovering not only their appearance, but also the diseases they were prone to. In the same studies, traces of oral bacteria were found thousands of years old, allowing researchers to reconstruct the diet and lifestyle of our ancestors. So, a tooth is not merely a tool for chewing. It's a biological hard drive. It stores data about how we breathed, what we ate, what climate we grew up in, and even whether we were exposed to environmental toxins. In the enamel of people from the industrial era, traces of heavy metals can be seen. In modern humans, microscopic particles of plastic. Our teeth are already becoming the chronicles of the plastic age. Sometimes we look at teeth as something lifeless, but that's an illusion. They don't just accompany us through life. They record every stage of it, from the first baby tooth to the smile of old age. Every crack, every line, every microscopic trace is part of the story of how humanity has coped with time, environment, and itself. A tooth never lies. It remembers everything. In the animal world, teeth are not only tools for eating. They are weapons, ornaments, instruments of communication, and proof of nature's evolutionary genius. Each species has turned them into something extraordinary, from microscopic spines to metallic blades capable of cutting through rock. Let's start with the creatures that prove biology's boundaries are far beyond what we imagine. Marine snails of the chiton species possess teeth coated in magnetite, an iron-rich mineral harder than steel. Their tiny, ironclad jaws work like microscopic drills, scraping algae off rocks. It's one of the few cases where life has produced a metallic biological element, literally living iron. A bit deeper in the ocean, dolphins demonstrate that teeth aren't always meant for chewing. Their jaws are full of cone-shaped identical teeth, yet none of them participate in grinding food. Dolphins use them like harpoons to catch fish, which they swallow whole. Interestingly, the arrangement of their teeth is so consistent that researchers can identify a dolphin species, and sometimes even its family, just by the pattern. The world of sharks is a story all its own. Their teeth are true production lines of nature. Each jaw holds several rows that move forward like on a conveyor belt. When one breaks, another immediately takes its place. During its lifetime, a shark can replace as many as 20,000 teeth. It's evolution's perfect mechanism for survival. But the king of teeth was only one, the megalodon. This prehistoric shark, which lived 3 million years ago, had teeth up to 30 centimeters long. Their shape resembled daggers, and the power of its jaws could crush a whale's bones. Today, the only traces left of that giant are fossilized teeth, found on ocean floors and coastal cliffs, echoes of a vanished oceanic empire. On land, nature shows no less creativity. Beavers have teeth saturated with iron, which gives them their distinctive orange hue and incredible hardness. Their incisors don't just cut through wood, they sharpen themselves. As they wear down, the front iron layer remains longer, forming a natural chisel. These biological engineers build dams and entire ecosystems without a single saw. Meanwhile, rodents, such as rats, have teeth that grow continuously throughout their lives. If they don't gnaw on hot enough materials, their teeth can grow so long they pierce the palate and cause death. It's a perfect example of the delicate balance between evolution and survival. Some animals, however, take dental ingenuity to extremes. Baleen whales abandoned teeth altogether. Instead, they developed baleen plates made of keratin, which act like enormous sieves. They strain water to catch plankton, feeding not with force but with elegance. At the opposite end of the spectrum are snakes, whose teeth don't chew but inject venom. Their fangs are hollow tubes, perfectly designed for one purpose: precise killing. Nature, as always, knows no morality, only efficiency. And then there are the showpieces. Narwhals possess a single tooth that grows through the upper lip into a spiraled tusk, up to 3 meters long. For centuries, it was mistaken for the horn of a mythical unicorn. Today, we know it's a giant sensory tooth, filled with millions of nerve endings, allowing it to feel subtle changes in the salinity of the water. From teeth that produce metal to those that serve as oceanic sensors. One thing becomes clear. In the animal world, there's no single blueprint for a tooth. Nature has turned them into tools, weapons, and organs of perception. And while humans admire their white, straight smiles, somewhere in the depths of oceans or the heart of jungles exist other, more primal versions of the same idea. Teeth that still define survival. Though they seem hard as stone and indifferent to our emotions, teeth, much like the heart or the skin, carry traces of our psychological lives. They don't speak, they don't feel pain like muscles do, and yet they react. And with astonishing precision, every stress, fear, or emotional strain finds its outlet somewhere in the body. For some, it's insomnia, for others, headaches. But more and more often, doctors are noticing another, quieter symptom: bruxism, or teeth grinding. It's an unconscious, involuntary clenching of the jaw, most often occurring at night, when the mind continues to process the day's emotions even as the body seems at rest. Bruxism isn't just a bad habit, it's a physical manifestation of psychological tension. With each grind, the jaw muscles generate pressure several times stronger than normal chewing. The result? Microcracks in enamel, worn-down edges, pain in the temporomandibular joints, and sometimes even facial deformation. Psychologists call it emotional clenching, a suppressed tension that, unable to escape through words, discharges itself through the hardest structure of the human body. But emotions can act in subtler ways. Chronic stress, even without grinding, affects hormone balance and blood flow in oral tissues. Cortisol, the stress hormone, weakens the immune defenses of the mucous membranes, making it easier for bacteria to attack the gums. Long-term tension can therefore lead to inflammation, gum recession, and ultimately, tooth loss. It's a paradox. The more we worry, the more we destroy the very tools we use to smile. Interestingly, dentists can sometimes read a person's emotional history from the condition of their teeth. The teeth of people living under chronic stress are often excessively worn, with microfractures in areas that have nothing to do with chewing. Sometimes X-rays reveal small changes in the structure of the jawbone, as if the body itself were trying to defend against its own tension. Teeth are therefore like a diary, not emotional in the symbolic sense, but biological. They record stress, fear, and anger in microscopic changes across their surface. Every clenched jaw, every restless, anxious night leaves a trace. It's no coincidence that in many cultures the phrase, "to grit one's teeth," means to endure. Because teeth truly do endure, but at the cost of fractures that often become visible only years later. Modern medicine increasingly connects bruxism with emotional disorders, depression, anxiety, and the constant strain of modern life. That's why treatment no longer stops at bite guards or dental procedures. Today, doctors say, to save the teeth, sometimes you must heal the soul. When the dentist says, "It's done, the tooth is gone," a person should feel relief, and yet many patients continue to feel pain for days, weeks, even months after extraction. A deep, pulsating ache in the very place where the tooth once was. Doctors call it phantom pain, and for neuroscience, it remains one of the most fascinating mysteries the brain can produce. The tooth may be gone, but its neural network remains. In the place where sensory fibers once ran, the brain still expects pain signals. When they no longer come, it begins to create them itself. It's as if an alarm system couldn't accept the loss of a sensor and started going off for no reason. The same mechanism is seen in amputees of arms, legs, even eyes. The brain doesn't know that a part of the body has vanished. In its map, it's still there. What's remarkable is that studies show teeth have an exceptionally dense network of nerves. Each tooth connects to the brain through dozens of microscopic fibers running through its root canals. That's why toothache can be so intense and difficult to pinpoint. The brain often confuses it with pain in the ear, head, or sinuses. And when the tooth disappears, its echo remains in the system, like an old program that was never fully uninstalled. Neurologists have discovered that such phantom sensations are linked to reorganization of the somatosensory cortex, the region of the brain responsible for touch and pain. After a tooth is lost, neurons from neighboring areas, for example, those corresponding to the cheek or tongue, begin to take over its place on the body's map. But the signals from the old neural connections don't vanish. They still try to say, "There was a tooth here. Something happened here." The brain interprets that as pain. Some patients describe it as the feeling that the tooth is still there. Others sense a mild itching, and still others, sharp pain like an infection. And even though there is no physical tissue left, the sensations are entirely real. It proves that pain is not born in the body, but in the mind. The tooth may die, but the memory of it does not fade right away. Even more intriguingly, some studies suggest that phantom tooth pain can be amplified by emotion. People with anxiety or high stress levels are more likely to experience it. In those cases, an overworked brain accidentally triggers old pain pathways. as if it were still trying to defend a part of the body that no longer exists. Dentistry also knows of the so-called ghost tooth phenomenon, when a tooth has undergone root canal treatment and its nerves are gone, yet the person still feels as if the tooth is alive. It's not magic, just the lingering echo of electrical impulses that circulated for years through the same neural circuit. So even though teeth may seem dead, they have a kind of memory. Not biological, but neurological. They are part of the body's map inscribed in the brain. And though you can extract them, kill the nerve, replace them with implants, the signal they leave behind can remain, like a memory of pain that the body cannot forget. Because before it disappears, a tooth leaves its trace in us. And sometimes that trace hurts longer than the wound itself.